name is Erik Wind with GeoData Plus, and I'm going to hopefully answer the question for everybody. Are foreclosures dead? Okay. So first of all, the name of my company, like I said, is GeoData Plus. That's our website, our telephone number. I encourage everybody to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. It's a great way to keep up with us and find out the newest features that we're coming out with. If you follow us on one of those platforms, you'll be the first person to know whenever we come out with something new that can help out your business. All right, so real quick, let me just blow through what I hope to cover in my 45 minutes here today on my agenda. Number one, I always like to start every one of these with a quick message to our customers. Who here is currently using GeoData? That's fantastic. Everybody who's using GeoData, thank you very much for your business. Anytime you've ever given us feedback about GeoData, good or bad, we're always listening. Thanks to that feedback, it's how we get better. So, anything that you like or dislike, please continue to share with us. Okay, I'll go into, for those who are not familiar with us, who we are. Of course, I'm going to answer the question, are foreclosures dead? I'm going to answer that question with a fair amount of data. And then if there's any time left, we'll talk about how GeoData can help you get your next deal. All right, so who are we? GeoData Plus is a real estate data source for New York and New Jersey. We're certainly not a startup. We've been around since 2000. And our customers are real estate brokers and agents like yourself, real estate appraisers. In fact, if you were to take a look at a residential appraisal in the Long Island, New York City area, chances are you would see GeoData as the source cited by the appraiser. And we also have investors, real estate lenders, and attorneys that focus on real estate as customers as well. Now for the question we're all here for: are foreclosures dead? All right. So first of all, I just wanted to define what dead really means here. And that's very simply, obviously there's still foreclosures here, but is there a business opportunity? And if they're dead, we're going to define it as the lessening of a business opportunity to the point where it's no longer worth pursuing, where we should try to focus our efforts elsewhere. And we'll answer that. So the first thing I did when trying to answer that question was I went into the search engine trends. Anybody ever hear of Google Trends? It's a pretty cool tool if you haven't used it. It's free. It's a tool that you can just Google. You look up, you Google Trends, and you can type in any keyword you like, and it'll tell you over a pretty extensive period of time the interest in that level. So obviously, if you Google a Super Bowl, every year around. When's the Super Bowl? February?
First week of February.
Thank you. So every year around February, for some reason, Super Bowl searches spike up. And further away you are from February, that trend goes down. And you can find trends for just about anything. That's pretty cool. So the first trend I looked up in Google is I searched from January 2009 to present, get us a good time range, on the keyword foreclosures. And here's what we found. So at that peak, around January 2009, that means during that time period, that was the peak of interest. That means at that time there was a huge amount of search activity for foreclosures. And since then, you can see a pretty steady decline in the searching for foreclosures, to the point now where it's at the lowest it's ever been. So you think, wow, that might be a pretty good indication that the business opportunity in foreclosures is lessening. Maybe it is dead. So who's Googling foreclosures? Let's think about this. I thought about it. Obviously, real estate agents like ourselves are Googling foreclosures, investors, but also consumers, homeowners, and home buyers are. People who are facing foreclosure. Maybe people who are interested in thinking they might be able to get a deal by buying a foreclosed property. So those are the kind of people. It's a wide net of people who's Googling foreclosures. But that's only one variable to look at when we try to answer the question. So the next search I did was the same time period, January 2009 to present, but this time I used a much more specific search term, Lis Pendens. So I'm not going to ask who knows what Lis Pendens is, because there's always a few, some of us do, some of us don't. So I'm going to, what I do is Those of you who have seen my slides before this presentation, I kind of have the same slide every year as far as what a Lis Pendens is. So let's go through that. A Lis Pendens is also known as a pre-foreclosure or a distressed property. It's the first sign to the public that a property is facing foreclosure. So, it's not a 30, 60, 90-day late on the credit. It's much more serious than that. It's at the point where the lenders made the decision that they're probably not going to get paid on this mortgage as they should, and they need to take action to recover their loan. Obviously this has occurred because the homeowner has missed a certain number of payments. Sometimes you get the question, well, how many payments? Is it 30? Is it 30 days? Is it 90 days? And the answer is we don't know. No, it's not a set formula. It's not like credit. And the answer is it's whenever the bank gets around to reporting that Lis Pendens. Could be 90, it could be 120, it could be more. It could be less in some instances. But it's certainly at a very serious point by the time a Lis Pendens gets filed. Homeowners who are facing foreclosure definitely very often need the help of a qualified real estate agent to get them out of that bad situation. And then my slide always ends with, Lis Pendens are always an opportunity. But that kind of conflicts with the question today, are foreclosures dead? So I'm going to put that in question. Just like our foreclosures dead, are Lis Pendens still an opportunity? So let's go back to that search data for Google. And this is the search trend that we see from January 2009 to present on Lis Pendens. It is a very, very different picture what we're seeing than what we saw on the search term foreclosures. The top is the graph that we saw for foreclosures, and the bottom is what we see for Lis Pendens. Now, obviously, the closer we get to 2009, there's just going to be a higher interest in the word Lis Pendens because that's really raw. It's really close to the time of the housing crisis, when it first started. But we can see that even despite that, the term has held its own, and we're hovering anywhere between 50 to 70. That sounded bad. We're hovering somewhere between 50 to 75% of the initial peak in search activity for Lis Pendens. So it's still a pretty active search term. So why is there such a difference then between searching for the word foreclosures and searching the word Lis Pendens? So we'll answer the same question we answered about foreclosures. Who's Googling Lis Pendens? Once again, real estate agents. Once again, investors. I personally don't think homeowners and home buyers are searching for the word Lis Pendens. And anecdotally, who here has a friend that's not a real estate agent? Okay, some of you do. Okay, so maybe a bad question. Do those friends know what a Lis Pendens is?
No.
It's not a typical term. It's a very industry-specific term. So my conclusion, at least looking at search engine trends, is while the interest in foreclosures from a consumer level has certainly lessened because it's no longer as exciting or as prevalent as a topic as it was earlier on in 2007, 2009, and so forth, interest in Lis Pendens, which is a more industry-specific term, remains active. So that's just on the search engine side. But that's just interest. The search trends isn't telling us about transactions. So we're not going to assume that interest in a keyword means activity. So in my opinion, are foreclosures dead is still a question we need to answer. So what I did next was I did a deep dive into foreclosure data in Long Island. And just like I disclosed my source is Google before, my source is now GeoData Plus for this kind of data. Okay, so this chart tells us the number of Lis Pendens filed in Long Island using a similar time frame, 2009 to present. And once again, the peak of the filings of Lis Pendens occurred around 2009. There was a big drop-off up to 2011. There's some explanations for that. One of the most known explanations is the banks kind of held off on filing more just because the market was so saturated with them that they didn't want to just overflow the market with foreclosures. So they kind of let it out a little bit at a time. And then obviously after that point, they started picking it up again, and it's leveled off. It's been at a pretty steady rate during that time for Lis Pendens filings. But that's just one piece. The next term I researched was distressed sales. Now, what is a distressed sale? Anybody who uses GeoData knows what that green means, right?
What?
Is that a fuse?
Almost. A green sale in GeoData means a property that is sold within 1 year of a Lis Pendens or other foreclosure being filed on it. So it's definitely a sale that's occurred as a result of some kind of distress. So I measured how many of those occurred from 2009 forward. Whoops. And that, once again, tells a little bit different of a picture. And from 2012 forward, the number of distressed sales has picked up considerably. There's more and more every year. So there's certainly a lot of activity as far as foreclosure-related sales occurring every year. In 2016, it looks like we had somewhere around 1,800 distressed sales. So let's compare these two numbers against each other. The Lis Pendens being filed pretty steadily at about, I don't know, just around 15,000 or so per year in Nassau and Suffolk. And the number of foreclosure-related sales is picking up every year. So that could mean that more properties are selling in Lis Pendens. At some point, the well's going to run dry, so maybe foreclosures are dead. We need more variables to answer that question. So the next thing I did was I looked up unsold distressed properties, also known as a term that probably many of us are familiar with called shadow inventory. We hear that term a lot, and I wanted to put a definition to it as far as how it could equate it in the data set in GeoData. So shadow inventory, as far as I'm defining it in this research, is properties that have had a Lis Pendens filed upon them, but haven't yet sold. So it's a property that's sitting there in foreclosure. Shadow inventory from 2009 to present is pretty much a straight line up. So the inventory of these foreclosed properties, think about it, it's just compounding. You know, a lot of them sell, some of them sell, but some of them sit there. And as we know, if a property is 3-6 months behind, they're probably not catching up on those payments. And we all know how successful loan modifications can be. Not really. So we see that these properties are still sitting in foreclosure, not yet sold. What's happening with them? One more variable, days to foreclose. Picture that kind of like days on market. You guys use that term a lot, that measurement. Days to foreclose is a similar type of metric. And what that is the number of days between when a Lis Pendens is filed versus to when it finally sells. This number is going to be pretty interesting. Big drop. So in 2009, a property was taking almost 3 years to sell once a Lis Pendens got filed upon it. 2015, we're just a little bit over a year. So these properties are selling considerably faster than they have been before. I only went up to 2015 because obviously it was only 2017. I didn't want to. If I included 2017 numbers, the number would be very low because the year is not over yet. So that's a consideration. So let's put all these data points together and come up with some kind of conclusion. Number one, the rate of Lis Pendens filings has definitely leveled off, as we saw from that straight line. Due to compounding, shadow inventory is continuing to climb. Because even if it's just a small amount more added every year, there's more distressed properties being added to the market than those being taken off the market. Distressed properties are selling faster. Whoops, forgot the word selling. And that's going to lead to an eventual decline in shadow inventory. And I underlined the word eventual because if you measure out the trend, it's not going to happen next year. It's not going to, that decline is not going to happen for a number of years. So we're looking at, due to the shadow inventory numbers, there's still a pretty good opportunity, a pretty large amount of these distressed properties on the market. Or to just put it real simple, foreclosures aren't dead. On the next part, I just want to go over real quick how we can use GeoData to find our next foreclosure listing now that we've answered that question. I kind of knew the answer to the question before I started. I just needed a cool name to get everybody in this room. So thank you for coming in today and hearing it. All right, so obviously, for those who have GeoData, a great way to find our foreclosure listings is through our Lis Pendens search. Okay, and this is what our Lis Pendens search looks like on the desktop. And the reason why I show this screen is because this is what our Lis Pendens search looks like on a phone and tablet. So it's really important that I point out that GeoData is a really good web application that you don't need to be sitting at a computer to use. You got a phone with a browser, you got an iPad, you got some other tablet. As long as it's got internet and a browser, you can use GeoData. You're not tied down to the desk. You're in the field, you want to look up a property, you can use GeoData. These are the type of ways you can search for Lis Pendens. You can search by date. GeoData is very current. You can look for all the recent Lis Pendens that have been filed in the past 7 days. Be the first one to find to notify the homeowner that they're facing foreclosure. They might you might know before they do. You can search by classification type. You can look for 1-family homes, 2-family homes, sometimes vacant land, sometimes mixed-use properties. You can search by geography, neighborhood, zip code, township. You can search by a certain amount. And you can search by plaintiff or defendant. So those are the fields. But let's put together some actual case uses. We talk to our clients, we find out how are you guys doing Lis Pendens searching? And here are some typical Lis Pendens searching that we're finding people are doing. Every Lis Pendens in a certain zip code in the past month. That's an easy one. You have a certain market, you have a certain territory, your neighborhood usually. Why go outside of that? You know every street, a lot of people there. So this is your neighborhood to be able to keep an eye on and keep those and capture those opportunities. Every 2-family Lis Pendens in Brooklyn. Maybe you have a certain niche of a property type. Maybe you specialize in 2-family frames or something like that. So you can search that way in GeoData as well. Or a really effective one, every Lis Pendens filed by a certain lender. So let's say you successfully close a short sale transaction or two with, Citibank or Wells Fargo or some other lender. And you've gotten a rapport with that asset manager. Why are you going to go back and do another Lis Pendens search in your zip code and just search by zip code? Search by zip code by that lender. Get another short sale listing from that lender. You know the asset manager already. You're probably going to have a much smoother. Every time you do another short sale listing with that lender, the transaction should go a little bit smoother because you're aware of potential roadblocks that occur. There's 3, tried and true ways that we can prospect for these short sales, for these foreclosure listings. And, it applies for any piece of marketing when it comes to real estate. Obviously, work with somebody, get a good direct mail piece. And I can show you how GeoData can, help you get our data and put it on those mail pieces for you. Get on the phone. You're going to help somebody in a situation like this. You are Batman. Or just knock on the door. Probably the most intimidating way, but it certainly works. Probably better than Batman. All right, number 1, mailing labels. Okay, so what we're looking at now is a result screen that shows Lis Pendens that have been filed, in a certain area. Okay, zoom in a little bit. You see on the right side this little icon over here. Well, first of all, you choose the ones that you want to do a mailer to, and then there's a button over here which says 5160 labels. It stands for Avery 5160. Those are the 3 across, 10 down. You buy them at Staples for a couple of bucks. Buy the Staples brand for half price. Stick that paper in your printer. You press the button. You either want it to go to the owner address or the property address. We have both. And it's going to print those labels for you. All you got to do is make sure the paper's in the printer the right way. Don't put it upside down. And it's going to print for you. You stick it on your postcards. You get them out. You get some responses. Next way is telephone prospecting. Same Lis Pendens search result. There's a button over on the left side below the labels which says display telephone numbers. We all know, most of us know that if you look up a property report in GeoData, you'll see the telephone numbers of that property. So if you're looking at a list of, let's say, 50 Lis Pendens, previously you had to click into a property report, look at the telephone numbers, go back, look at the next one, do it 50 times. Now you just press display telephone numbers, and on the same page, it's going to put all the telephone numbers for every property listed there. So it's a huge time saver. Gets you all those telephone numbers in one place. It's also exportable to a spreadsheet, so you can stick it in Excel. If you have a CRM that you use, you can put it into a CRM. And then lastly, if you're going to be knocking on doors, which obviously, once again, intimidating but effective, we have our mapping tool. Shows you where every one of these properties are. Real easy. You put that on your tablet, put it on your mobile device. If you're old school, you put it on paper. I probably do it on paper personally, and you just go around and you get the job done. Just to be clear, though, other people are gonna, say that this is easy. It's not easy. It's a lot of hard work. But I can tell you from what our customers tell us, it works. You got to work it. But this is a very effective way. There's no secret here. You do it. You'll get a reward from doing it if you do it right. And just for those who aren't familiar with GeoData, I'm just going to blow through, some of the information you see in GeoData. GeoData is more than just a service you use to look up addresses of properties facing foreclosure. You can type in any property, and you're going to get a huge amount of information on any property that exists in the state of New York and New Jersey. So this just happens to be a report I pulled in Brooklyn. And the information that we're seeing here, first of all, on this one section is the address of the property, the neighborhood, the ownership summary, which includes the owner of record, any buyers in the recent deed. If there is a Lis Pendens or a lien on the property, it'll show you all the defendants on that property as well. We go into a real dive on the building information. We tell you the classification of the property, the number of buildings, number of floors, the square footage, the floor area ratio, lot size, zoning, flood zone, taxes. We even have a new service in there called Sound Score, which has measured the noise level of every square mile in the continental United States. And it measures that based upon vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic, and air traffic to come up with a number as far as how loud that area is. So you want a person that wants a quiet area, this can help you with that. All the telephone numbers listed at that property. And then we also show you all the transactions, all the sales that have occurred in the property going back 30 plus years, all the liens filed on the property, all the mortgages, assignments, and satisfactions. That's New York City specific, but we do have the mortgages for Long Island as well. So there's just a huge amount of information that you can find on any one of these properties. Before I get into the comps, just one other thing that I didn't add, but something we just released in GeoData the other day. Once in a while I'll get a question, well, how do I send a GeoData property report to somebody? And the answer used to be, well, make it a PDF and email it as an attachment. And that's good, but that's kind of, really, that's a dated way of thinking. So what we have now, if you haven't noticed it yet, when you log into GeoData, we have a button at the top of every property report that says share. You press that button, and it makes this special hyperlink, which you can share on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those other services I don't use, and that you should be using, by the way. And you just provide that link. Or you just email somebody that link, and they can click on it, and they can find that entire property report. But not only that, there's a contact form with your name on it. So somebody's looking at that. Somebody sends somebody else that link, and they're looking at a property that may be listed, and it'll say, let's say, my name's Erik Wind. So it says, for more information on this property, contact Erik Wind. You click on it. Person types in their name, their email address, and we send you an email with that person's information and inquiry. I'll get to the questions right at the end. Thanks. Last piece is sales comparable searching. All this is good. We got to find out what a property's worth. We got to find comps on it. I mentioned before that this is what the appraisers use to get their comps. It's a really effective tool. MLS is great for getting comps, but it has only the MLS listings, the MLS sales as your comps. GeoData is not a replacement for your MLS for comps. It's something that doing your due diligence, you use both. You look at your comps in MLS, you look at your comps in GeoData, you're not going to miss anything. You're not going to miss the FSBO sales, which are good comps. You're not going to miss the private non-MLS sales. If you're the one agent that a homeowner is interviewing to list their property, and you're the one agent who used GeoData along with MLS, and you got that one sale that's across the street, the perfect comp that wasn't an MLS, you're the one agent who wasn't embarrassed by not having that sale, you're going to get that listing. You do that once a year, your GeoData subscription pays for itself. You will do it more than once a year. All right. And again, if you weren't interested in following us on social media before, hopefully you might now. All right. thank you, everybody, very much. I know you had a choice of speakers today. I'm very much appreciative that you chose GeoData.